Hi, hello everyone. It's been a long day, but I assure you that this will be the most interesting session that you attend today. So, if your friends and colleagues are still outside, do call them in. We've got a very distinguished panel today and talking about a topic that I hope is still relevant and very important. With me today will be Cyril, Claire, and Ching Hock. I'll let them do some self-introductions. But I'm very, very grateful that on a panel that is going to talk about women's role in the industry, we actually have two male advocates. Please give them a round of applause. All right, just a little bit introduction of myself. I'm Mabel Kwan, Managing Director for Alton Aviation Consultancy. But more importantly, I also am the board director of a non-profit organization in Singapore called Women in Aviation. So the purpose of this organization is to create the network as well as development opportunities for women to grow in the aviation industry. So I'll let my guest panelists say a few words about themselves, but also, as you introduce yourself at the end of it, just tell us one word, right, that best represents your view of diversity in the aviation industry. We had very interesting answers last year, so I'm really looking forward to this one this year. Cyril?
You like that, yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cyril Girot. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cambodia Airport. Cambodia Airport is actually a subsidiary of Vinci Airport Group, which is the first private airport operator in the world with a 70-plus airport that we run all over the world and over 13 countries across 5 continents. So regarding the word that I will use for better define actually the gender diversity within the aviation sector, I would use treasure in the sense that it's a real asset for both the aviation sector and of course for the companies that the women belong to. Yeah.
Thank you, Cyril. So we have treasure because it's a real asset. Claire?
Hi, everybody. So I'm Claire. I run my own company, Customer Centric Consulting. I've got a strong background in aviation. It's the industry I've worked in my whole life, so airlines and airports. So put that to good use in an advisory capacity these days. And the topic of diversity, equity and inclusion comes up a lot in the work that I do. So a word that I would use is normalizing it. So that whole, if you can see it, you can be it. I think it's a good approach, and the only way to do that is through normalizing. Yeah.
So we never have to talk about this topic in future.
100%.
Ching Hock.
Hi everyone, my name is Ching Hock. So I've been with the Changi Airport Group for 17 years. It's still my first job. So I used to be an intern. So I'm so glad that still here after 17 years. And a bit about myself. I used to be, when I joined T3, first opened in 2008, and then I spent a lot of times, largely on the airport management terminal side, and then taking out systems. I was also driving T4, where we design and build from scratch. And currently, I take care of Seletar Airport, which is probably less well known to many people. Seletar is actually Singapore's second airport, and it caters more to business and general aviation flight. MRO training schools, turboprop aircraft, etc. So I have a team under me. I take care of the engineering part, the ops, the safety, and the aerodrome aspect. Yeah. So now one word for me is mindset. Yeah, and I think throughout the whole discussion, I will keep coming to it. I told Mabel before the session that I'm quite familiar talking about technology, airports, operations, management, but today is something new for me, talking about women in aviation and about gender. So I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. I think Ching Hock is one of the strongest supporter of our organization, so we're very grateful for that as well. Now, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, right? The recent policy shifts in certain countries and administrations have meant that DEI programs are now progressively being rolled back, right? Is diversity, and more specifically gender diversity, still relevant in the aviation industry today? Maybe it's Claire? Let's start with you.
Yeah, okay. So the DEI space obviously has changed over time. I can let you know if I was on a panel about this, you know, even 5 years ago, there probably would have been all females, and that would have been potentially the expectation from the audience. What I sort of see now is more males speaking forward about it because they see the impact of those diverse conversations. So if you're looking at decision making, if you're having discussions, if you've got every piece of information, you're making an informed decision. Even if you don't agree with the perspective, it prevents that echo chamber. So it means that if everyone in the room's a yes person or everyone in the room has the same experience, not necessarily gender, I know we're focused on gender today, but obviously having diverse genders in the room can help with that. It just means that you're listening to different perspectives and making an informed decision. So it could be as simple as, did we think of piloting that? Have we tried, if we're doing, I don't know, something came up recently with one of my clients, putting in kiosks. You just need that one person in the room with a different way of thinking to say, have we tested it with all the airlines? Can all the airlines integrate with the kiosk for everything? Or is there an issue with the sequence of events? It's just that extra voice and thinking in the room to think differently, to have everyone question what they're doing. I think that's what gets missed if it gets shut down.
And Ching Hock, do you agree with that view? You have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at it, I would say actually even more important than ever. For Changi, you know, we run an airport that is obviously international. We handle 68 million passengers before COVID. And I think in the recent news, we're back to almost 99.1%. We're handling 68 million. But the point of saying that is that, you know, we have passengers, members of public, stakeholders coming from all parts of the world, different airlines, different colleagues, different staff, different passengers. And increasingly, I think it's even more important that there is diversity in the leadership at all levels, not just at the management, but also senior management, but also middle management, and down to the ground, so that you have a better feel of what passengers want. You know, I think a good gender mix is very important. Some passengers may want certain things, but you know, especially those with families, young children, and perhaps I even come down to this. I think in the past we put a lot of focus on even something like a what do you call it, parent care facility, right, for nursing mothers, for different type of passengers. Is getting actually even more important that when different passenger segment types come through the airport, they better appreciate that. And you need that at the highest level so that people consider all these different type of mix and passengers. Yeah, and even down to the staff level, I think what can better help support, you know, people to go about doing their work is very important. And it's always very dangerous to have what we call groupthink, you know, or a leadership team that is very focused on a particular segment or gender, and then you don't get that mix. And actually the problems, sometimes they don't come straight away, but over time it creep up because you realize that, hey, shucks, we should have done this maybe a few years ago, you know. There was this gap that some of us didn't think about it, yeah. So I think at a very conscious level, certainly I think that mix and diversity in leadership is very important.
I think you touched on a few points, Ching Hock. I think, and Claire as well, right? Firstly, diversity comes from the sort of offerings and services that you can provide to your customers. in terms of the innovation that you're bringing to the market. At the same time, diversity also comes from the organization. So within the organization, the staff, the leadership. Cyril, I think you're part of a worldwide organization in terms of Vinci with very strong presence globally. Do you see a difference in terms of the policies and initiatives to encourage gender diversity or to reach out to more women to become leaders across your global portfolio?
Yes, actually, I can give you a few examples and to showcase this. First of all, at the Vinci concession or Vinci Airport, we do believe to lead by example, and that's why if you take our top-level management, our executive committee, and both the Vinci concession level, but also that you can find after that in our subsidiary, in Cambodia Airport, the ExCom committee is equally composed of women and men. For the Vinci concession level, so the top level of our group, 5 men, 5 women. And we can find this at Cambodia Airport. We've got an executive committee at Cambodia Airport, equally composed of 4 men and 4 women. So that's kind of a lead by example. And beside this, we've got also some ways to bring mentorship program, and just for making sure that women can find the way to have all the skills they need to be brought to the highest leadership position. And for example, at the Vinci concession, we've put a program in place whose name is Elevate. And the idea is to pair high potential women with mentors. These mentors, they belong to our group, they're within our group. And the idea is to allow these women to develop 4 main skills. First one is leadership, second one is influence, third one strategic vision, and the last one is the networking skill. And all this initiative encourage actually women to go on and to take on leader role within our organization, and that's how we match together. It's to say we've got the lead by example with the composition of the executive committee I told you, and also the means to bring more women to reach this kind of a level and to have this being brought continuously.
Just a follow-on question. You mentioned that your leadership team at your holding company level is quite balanced, right? Is it a target that you set, or is it by chance?
It's both, actually. We set these targets actually at the group level and in the different subsidiaries, but it's also a chance that we provoked. And that's where this mentorship program comes. It's actually to, let's say, to fight also sometimes gender bias, which may exist more within the female staff and employees that we may have. And the idea is to bring them to have this proper positioning, I would say, to get on promoting and to be mentored by different people, either men or women, and just to make sure that they can be promoted with the appropriate skills. So that's why I would say the combination of both. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting because with Women in Aviation, we actually have a mentorship program. I'm going to pose the question to you, Claire, since you're the female on the panel. So we have a mentorship program. We look at how we can pair mentors and mentees from different organizations together. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that there's a safe environment, right, to share and to share challenges that someone outside of the company may actually see it from a third-party perspective. And that we feel has worked very well. But in reality, we find increasingly that there are more mentors than mentees signing up for the program. So, Claire, I want to ask you this question. Is it something that a woman needs to put themselves forward, and what sort of programs is actually needed, right, to encourage women that is somewhat different from, say, men?
Good question. So I think there's a few points to that. And when it comes from a company point of view, I think that's amazing what's happening within your company. Sounds like it's soon to be normalised. So hopefully you won't need programs, to our point before. It comes in the now with the company, the pipeline that we talked about. So the mentoring in a way would happen before they even come to your company. Then there's a mentoring within the company. So if you look at it in that way, what's the behaviour that's being instilled really early on? So are you brought up in a way that you think, what do I want? Am I clear about that? Do I have a plan? Because it's really hard for other people to help you if you don't know yourself. And I think that's where those mentoring programs are important and how the awareness is made about it. Sometimes people think, oh, I've got to be organised and really know what I want to be in the mentor program. No, the mentor program and like the mentors should be helping the mentees to work that out. Like what is it that you want? What suits you? What's the pathway to that? It's okay to go and ask for help and plan that out. And sometimes it can happen by chance. So it doesn't need to be a structured program necessarily. So for me, one of my first experiences at being supported was often by male colleagues. But for me to get there, I needed to be really clear about what it was I was wanting to achieve, have a plan to go there. So when I saw an opportunity, I could go and ask them. And then you need that person to go, right, understand what you're after. I'm looking for the opportunities for you and making those available. And then almost being a mentor for you by chance. Right. So there's two ways, a formal way and an informal. I actually think the informal way sometimes works better, but then brings people into the formal programs as needed, like the leadership programs you were talking about there. So it's twofold.
So it seems like it's a mindset change, as Ching Hock mentioned, right? And it has to be organization-wide. There has to be some form of alignment in terms of the goals and objectives, as Cyril mentioned, right? It's not by chance. There is a target to work towards. But Ching Hock, I mean, you have dealt with, a lot of, you're in ops, right? And operations is sort of like notorious in a way, quite well known for having a large gender imbalance. Anything to dispute that with?
No, not really to dispute, but maybe to go a little bit deeper. And in fact, I was telling Mabel I did some homework before coming here. I spoke to a lot of colleagues, a lot of leaders and ops. I think there's two parts to this. Of course, aviation, there's many parts to it, right? There is operation, there's the safety, there's the security. There's the commercial part, right? Business development, which generally in Changi, in CG, we're more ladies who work there. And yes, ops, I think generally percentage is a lot lower. I think it comes down to this. If officers are on shift hours, of course, then you dissect. You have people who are on shift and people who are not on shift, right? For shift hour colleagues, I think the challenge is generally, especially if ladies, female colleagues, they have children. I think we can't really not talk about that today in terms of caregiving, because some of our female colleagues, and I guess not just in CAG, but in the industry as a whole, because I spoke to ground handlers, I spoke to training schools, before coming here. I think a lot of times when, it's also a societal mindset, because there's an individual and then there's a societal mindset. Because I think when they are running shift, and then let's say you have children, many women in society still expected to be the primary caregiver, right? So, if your child, I should say this, I have two young daughters. My daughters are 5 and 7. So, so I think when sometimes children fall sick, a lot of times it's the mother who has to, perhaps bring the kids to the doctor, take on more caregiving responsibility. So I think that's one really real challenge, which a lot of colleagues on shift face this challenge, and perhaps after they have children, they decide that, okay, can I request for a transition to an office hour role, or how can we adjust the role? So I think that's one of the challenge, but I would say it's even beyond aviation. It's a societal, there's a Singapore part of it, there's an international part of it. And speaking as a father, how can we better come in? We need to, lack of a better word, get our act together as well, because increasingly I think fathers, husbands need to also bear that share of responsibility and help. And by taking some time off, etc., to help. And as a companies at corporate level, right, we have to be understanding, right, to give time off to our colleagues, our staff who needs to, maybe need half a day just to take care of the children for whatever reason, especially if they don't have caregiving helpers, at home. And you also do want to encourage that, because you want your staff to, attend to the family and come back and give 100%, right? You do want they are still 50-50, thinking about work and then having to settle the children, and then that's going to be very difficult. Yeah, so I think rounding back to your question, yes, the percentage I think is still low, and the nature of the work, I don't think it will change in terms of the nature of work, meaning that in terms of ops exigencies, right, things happen, incidents, safety related, security related, a lot of time, even myself, right, I drop off whatever I'm doing, I rush to attend to the incident. So that's something that sometimes for maybe young mothers or parents, even young fathers, right, who have taken care, having more caregiving responsibility, that can be a bit of a challenge. Yeah. But I think over time, again, with things like having more discussions like this, growing the mind share, and in a way, COVID did help in a way, I think, in terms of the whole concept of hybrid work, right? I think people are less sticky about, you must be there, things like that. Even ops leaders can be at home, and then you get reports, things like that. But I think it will get better, but we do need to talk about this, raise awareness, and collectively give more understanding, so that we encourage more, female colleagues to join the industry, including in the operations side. Yeah.
Can I add to that? I think something that's probably the most game-changing is when leaders do it. So I worked at a company, the regulations changed in Australia around paternity leave, rather than it's parental leave, not maternity leave, paternity, it was parental. And the leadership team, very senior, started to take that leave, whether they were male or female. And I think when people see that, and they see their leadership team taking the balance that seriously, rather than this is what we provide for you as a company, we've got flexible working, you can do hybrid to allow for it. It's actually then from the top showing people, I value it that much, I'm doing it myself, and I'm going to be off for 3 months looking after my new baby, and that's hard to do, I know, at very senior levels, but just working out a way where that can work, that speaks volumes about a company and really wanting to shift the dialogue.
I guess it's all part of the mindset change, right? If the leaders do it themselves, right? They also can demonstrate that you will not be penalized, right? You will not be penalized. I think that is the one big obstacle or hurdle, the mindset that you have to be in the office and you have to show face, right, in an Asian context in order for you to rise up the corporate ladder. I think that is the one key mindset change that is really required. But Cyril, I'm also curious because you run the airport, and from an operations perspective, how do you see any new automation, innovation, or technology that can potentially help alleviate, some of the challenges, right, of having to, for women to stay within the industry, especially in the operations role. Take, for example, the part about data. So I know previously processes have been very manual, especially for some say, cargo-related processes where you need to be physically there, you fill in the form, right? I think post-COVID, as Ching Hock has mentioned, there is increasingly a data transparency and visibility across the value chain that can potentially help, right, and remove the need to be there physically. And I think that will, gradually change the sort of processes and operational working habits that's required. That you have to be there, you have to be on the ground. But Cyril, do you have any other, initiatives or innovations that you think will help drive some of these, challenges away and, make it a more conducive environment for women to stay engaged in the industry for a longer time, especially in a operations role?
So first of all, maybe if we have a look, an overview on the different jobs that we may have on an airport, what we used to have in an airport, let's say a few decades ago, was a kind of a segregation between the different jobs. For example, the ramp jobs were handled by men. Firemen were men. Passenger service were more women. Today, there is a bigger mix between the different jobs that we may provide on an airport. Passenger service, it's pretty being investigated, and the different positions are handled by both men and women. For firemen, we have welcomed either in our Cambodian airport, we've just welcomed 3 women for being fire women this time. So that's pretty good achievement. So we've got firefighters. Most of them are men, but we allowed, of course, the possibility to have women joining. And that better in the team. What we can observe is that for the ambience of the team and for the performance at work, it's always better to have both men and women. And to go back to your, especially to your question, actually, yes, of course, innovation brings some opportunities, and I'm thinking about the job that we may provide at the ramp. It's most of the time it's having some heavy weight to weight, and for this today we've got some innovation that emerged in the ground handling world, let's say, with, for example, exoskeleton that you put on people for helping them into weighting of heavy charges. And this brings more flexibility on a day-to-day basis for the people, for their physical abilities. So it's, of course, helping the people with some disabilities, even sometimes, the people that cannot weight heavy charges. But also for women, it's also bringing kind of a support and a help for performing this type of job. And that's why today we can observe that in certain airports, we've got some women handling some position at the ramp. So for both of these positions, again, either firefighters or the ramp, I can witness that in our group, we've got both women and men in this type of a position in different countries. We do have them, as I mentioned, in Cambodia, but the airport I was running before joining Cambodia, which was the airport of Nantes in France, we had also the same. We had over a team of around 50 firefighters. We had 5 women just present and belonging to the team for bringing, again, all this new skill, this new approach to the team, and a due way to perform during this while joining this team. Thank you.
So for those of you who haven't been to Cambodia airports before, I love Siem Reap Airport. Not only the architecture, but also the way of service has a very different touch. It's definitely incorporated, a lot of diversity in viewpoints, right, in the approach that you treat your passengers. So well done, Cyril.
I'm going to jump in here because I on firefighting, because I really wanted to share this example because I think about 5 months ago for our airport emergency service firefighters, we actually for the first time ever we actually have a female firefighter who joined us. So out of the I think about 500 airport emergency service colleagues. So I had a call with her, and coincidentally, she's working in the Seletar. I had a call with her just before I came, and then just have a chat. And again, she said there's part of that mindset part. There's also it can feel, in her words, intimidating when you apply because it's a very traditional male-dominated role. But she felt that she wanted to just try, go for it, and she wanted to hope to be inspiration also for other female firefighters, and I thought that was really brilliant and inspiring. I'm hoping to do a media release for her sometime, let her stabilize in the job. But I think what Cyril said, because the traditional equipment, right, PPE for firefighting, the hose can actually weigh up to 100 kg. So physically, it is quite taxing. So I was really very proud of our colleague. She said that it just motivates her to train even stronger. But on the point on technology, indeed, I think the solution, I think over time there are smarter ways to go about firefighting. Recently we have started, for example, drones, right? That if you do see rescue at night, I think the recent incident, right, unfortunately in the US, happened at night over a river. You actually have drones that you can mount up, flash the lights over 2 football fields. Easier to do rescue. So I think many things. You have trials of robodogs, unmanned firefighting machines. So I think these are all smart technology that complements the firefighters or operational roles, such that you may not need to rely on what I call brute strength. You can be smart about how you go about the type of work. Yeah, and then I think adding on to what Cyril said, even in the area of baggage handling, we're trying to do some trials for autonomous vehicles. Again, it's a bit of a different skill sets, right? To manage the data, manage the route, the planning of it. And a better way of doing it, and hopefully that also encourages more people to step forward. Yeah.
I think, Claire, you've done a lot of work, right, with the Australian Airports Association, and I recall that you wrote a paper for one of the international organizations with regards to this topic. I think awareness is actually very important, and the general industry support is also very important. But how do you think schools, have a role to play? How do we generate that outreach and awareness to young children and maybe girls who are looking at entering the aviation industry, but are discouraged by their parents to do so?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So the point that I was making before around you can look at the now, which is great, and I'd like to think the reason there's been success with what you're talking about is you're building that pipeline in the before. So the biggest successes I've seen is around, like you were saying, like normalising things, making sure, if a female wants to do a certain role, that there's a bathroom for her. Like I know there's a lot of airports around the world that still don't have female bathrooms available airside to be a baggage handler. Like where do they go to the bathroom? Or they're going to a bathroom that's unisex but it's predominantly male, they don't feel comfortable there. So I think it's showing. So it's doing the partnerships we talked about before, work experience. It could be, you talked about before, mentoring, but it could also be scholarships that are available, or it could be with the work experience, come and have a look at that. And there might be university sponsorships to show that there's roles outside of the traditional things. So people think airports, they think pilot, they think baggage handler, flight attendant, showing them there's other roles. And I think all of us would agree that there's often shock that there's other roles available outside of that. And I think some of the initiatives that I've seen, I know in Australia, the Airports Association has done a careers guide, and they've taken videos of women and men in roles that aren't traditionally women roles, female roles or male roles, to show that this is what it looks like to be a female being an airport reporting officer, for example. This is what I do every day. This is what it's like being a male doing a role that might be more office-based that traditionally might have been a female role. And I noticed that your charter is recently looking at doing little cards to show people and what their roles look like and what difference it's made. I think it's an awareness thing right from the get-go across all of the channels. So not just school, it could be social media, it could be through the universities, could be through scholarships, the mentoring that you talked about, showing mentees what that looks like, that you don't have to be perfect and know what you want before you start. That's what it's about, is helping you crystallise that. So I think it's a multifaceted answer.
Thank you. We are, running down on time, but then I'd like to just pose one last question to everyone to just conclude the session. If there's one thing that you would like to change in the aviation industry to encourage diversity, what would it be? Okay, I'll start first. My daughter is 14 years old. She wants to be a pilot, but she is not tall enough to be a pilot because there is a minimum height requirement to be a pilot. So I think in today's times and technology, arbitrary restrictions or requirements like these to be relooked at. I think that's my wish. Cyril?
So this rings some bells to me because I've got a daughter as well. She's 10, and her dream is to become an astronaut. Wow. So what we do, concretely speaking, is that we encourage her, of course, and we also bring her to different lectures. So Cannes, France, where there are some astronauts sharing their experience. And what was very good, I've got one in mind. Once I brought her to a Cannes, France lecture performed by Thomas Pesquet. And Thomas Pesquet had one word, which was, follow your dream. That's it. Whatever the gender, follow your dream and do whatever you need to do for achieving this dream. And that's the perfect example. And to directly reply to a question, what I would bring maybe more into the aviation industry is highlighting the success stories. And that's something that we are keen to do within the Vinci Airport network and in Cambodia. It's actually showcasing the achievements of successful female managers. So we make it through either we invite some students at our airports to showcase to them what kind of a career they may have within an airport, and especially for the women, the example of a successful female manager. And for our female manager, we do encourage them to actually share their experiences in different, let's say, places. For example, sectorial forum. Most of the time it's in the presence of the high authorities in Cambodia. So that a good opportunity to share what women can do within the industry, within the country. Second, for internal seminar, for sharing the experience with either staff or pairs. And the late is a career fair. We take part in a lot of career fairs, and with a lot of, let's say, successful female managers of ours, just again, to have this sharing experience and to showcase to the youngest people, the youngest students, that they may have a pretty good career within the aviation sector and that they can reach the top level position in the company or in the industry.
Great. Very interesting. I think for me it comes back to that normalising point. I'll labour on about it because I'm starting to see it in the world, and I think we're doing a really good job of doing that, even looking at today. So for me, my wish would be that everybody sees the value in their own voice, everyone sees the value in their own opinion, everybody feels safe to speak up in any environment and be heard. And to me, that would be whether it's you see that your leadership team is all male, that you're happy to post, look, our male group caught up yesterday, we're aware it's not that diverse, but we're working on that. This is what we're doing to take steps. I have seen companies do that, and it really resonates with people. It might be that you're in a meeting, to your point about bathrooms. I've heard males speak up and say, why is the bathroom for the family next to the female hallway? Why isn't it in the male hallway? Knowing it's okay to talk about those things that were traditionally something that was seen as a female discussion. So it's seeing that everyone takes ownership of normalising it, that it's not the female's responsibility, it's not a male's responsibility, it's not necessarily binary genders that we're talking about anymore either. So where does this inclusion lead us to? It's through everybody taking responsibility and speaking up and knowing that they're valued, basically.
For me, it would be mindset. You know, if there's one thing I can change, I think mindset in terms of again, you know, for females trying to join the industry, I think the mindset. So I think mindset is two ways. First of all, mindset of companies should encourage, you know, and I think it's like what Claire is saying. I think it's evolving. It's getting better. Still a lot of room to grow, but I think it has evolved in terms of trying to recruit more female leaders, staff, etc. But also for females trying to go into the industry, I think the mindset also needs to be adjust such that you don't self-limit yourself, you know, because exactly like what Cyril said, you know, our daughters should also have the chance and to believe that they can do whatever they want, right, in the aviation space. And in fact, maybe not just aviation, in anything, right, with this new age. So I think mindset is something that's I hold very dear. I think that should change. Yeah.
Thank you. And with that, you know, let's hope that next year the mindset has developed even further in all our aviation organizations. I'd like to thank our esteemed panelists for your views and your time today. And well, have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you.